My in-laws decided they would host Christmas at our house without asking, and my wife agreed before telling me, and now everyone's upset I refused. I'm 33M and my wife Lena is 31F. This is our third Christmas married, and our first one in the house we bought together this summer. Somewhere between those two facts, her parents decided they would be hosting Christmas at our house, told the entire family, and Lena agreed before I even knew about it. Now I'm the selfish one because I said no. We live outside Milwaukee, 3-bedroom place, bought in August. Up until now, every major holiday on her side has been at her parents' place about 40 minutes away. They love hosting. They also love staying late, drinking too much, and leaving a disaster in their wake. Not maliciously, they just assume everyone will pitch in eventually and that whoever owns the house is fine with it. My family is the opposite. I have one sister. My parents are divorced, but civil. Holidays are usually lunch at my mom's, and maybe seeing my dad another day. Lower volume, less chaos, more everyone leaves by 8. Since we closed on the house, Lena's mom, Carol, has been saying things like, next year we'll have to do Christmas here. Look at all this space, and your kitchen is perfect for a big Christmas meal. Each time, I'd say something like, we'll see, or we haven't figured out plans yet. Lena would sort of laugh it off, but never actually say, we haven't decided. A couple months ago, Lena and I talked privately and agreed that this year we'd keep the usual pattern, Christmas Eve with my mom, Christmas Day at her parents', maybe have both sides over for a casual New Year's thing once we were more settled. That was the plan in my head. 2 Sundays ago, Lena went to her parents' place for the afternoon while I stayed home. I was fixing a cabinet door and watching football. When she got back, she seemed spaced out. I asked how it went. She said, fine, mom's already in full Christmas mode. I asked about what? She just said menus, decorations, the usual, and went to shower. 3 days later, I'm at work when my phone starts buzzing nonstop. There's a group text with me, Lena, her parents, her siblings, and their partners. Carol has written, so excited for Christmas at Lena and Ops this year. We'll plan on Christmas Eve dinner there and Christmas morning for presents. I'll bring the ham and desserts. Everyone else can grab a side dish. It's going to be perfect for their first Christmas in the new house. Mara replies within seconds. Yes. New house Christmas. One brother says closer drive for us. I'm in. The other, calling dibs on the couch, bringing the dog. Dan sends Santa emojis. Everyone piles on excitement. Except me, because this is the first I'm hearing of it. I text Lena separately. When did we agree to host Christmas? She replies, I'll explain later. In a meeting, I text back, Mom, just announced it to everyone. Explain now, no response. So I type into the group, I didn't realize we'd agree to host. Lena and I still need to talk about this. The whole tone in the chat shifts. Carol responds, oh, sweetheart, we talk about it on Sunday. Lena said you two would love to have everyone. We thought it would be such a special way to break in a house. Then Lena finally appears. Yeah, we were going to talk about it tonight. I honestly thought you'd be okay with it. It's just family. I reply, we haven't talked about it, and I'm not okay with people committing our house without asking both of us. Then I stop responding in the group. That night, Lena walks in already glaring. Before I can say anything, she goes, did you have to make my mom look stupid in the family chat? I say, did you have to say yes to hosting Christmas without mentioning it to your husband? She says her parents assumed, since we have the new house, and she didn't see a reason to say no, that it's her family bringing food. They'd help clean. I barely have to do anything. I tell her that's not how this goes, that her family doesn't just eat and leave. They sprawl. They stay past midnight. They pull out every dish in the kitchen, and somehow none of it ends up back where it belongs. I remind her I told her months ago, I didn't want our place to become the default event center, that I work right up until the 23rd. I'm exhausted, and we had actually talked about doing the usual split with my family still in the picture. She waves that off, says we can still fit my mom in on the 23rd or the 26th, but Christmas should be with my family this year. I say it's not just about whose logo is on Christmas. It's about the fact you made a big decision about our home without me. She rolls her eyes and says, you're making this into some big power struggle. It's one holiday. We go back and forth. Her position is, her parents have done Christmas for 30 years. Her dad's back hurts. Her mom's tired. She wanted to give him a break and show them she's a good daughter. She knew I'd be fine, so she said yes on the spot. Mine is, it's our first Christmas in our house. I had a picture of how that would look too. My family exists and already had a plan with us. You don't agree to host 2 days of events for 10 people and then casually drop it on your spouse via group text. If we start this marriage with Lena and her parents decide, Opie is told after, it's not going to stop at Christmas. I tell her I'm not comfortable hosting this year. That if her parents had texted, would you two be open to it? And we talked and agreed, fine, but that's not what happened. She starts crying and says I'm ruining the picture she had in her head of everyone around her table, her dad carving the ham, her mom finally not having to do everything. I say, I get that picture, I really do, but in your version, I'm just a prop, not someone who got asked. We go to bed angry, her in the guest room. The next morning, I wake up to a paragraph from Carol. She says she's hurt and disappointed that I called her out publicly, that she was just trying to honor us by centering Christmas in our new home. That in their family, everyone pitches in and no one clings to my house, my rules. She ends with, I hope as you grow into this marriage, you can learn to value togetherness over territory. I respond once, saying I'm not against togetherness. I'm against being told after the fact what my role is. I say again that if she'd asked both of us first, this might have been different. She doesn't reply, but Mara jumps in with a separate text to me about how Lena shouldn't have to ask permission to invite her own family to her own home. I answer it's not her home. It's our home, and that's the whole point. Then mute her. Over the next 2 days, the group chat keeps buzzing about who's bringing what dish, what time everyone is arriving at our place. Lena keeps insisting we can still talk about it. But when I ask, are you willing to tell them no? She dodges the question. Finally, after one more, can't wait to see everyone at Opie and Lena's. From Carol, I sent a clear message. To be absolutely clear, Lena and I will not be hosting Christmas at our house this year. We hadn't agreed to that before it was announced, and I'm not comfortable with it. You're welcome to do Christmas at Carol and Dan's like usual. Lena is free to join you. I'll be with my family, as we originally planned. Then I put my phone down. The immediate responses are predictable and ugly. Carol calls Lena sobbing about how I've humiliated her and made her look like a fool. Dan texts me separately calling me immature and saying I need to step up and act like the man of the house instead of hiding behind texts. Mara writes a mini essay in the group about how some people just aren't built for big families, and Lena deserves a partner who understands that her parents come as part of the package. One brother tells Lena, you can come without him. We'll make room. Lena comes home with red eyes and says, you really had to send that? I say you and your mom made a public decision about my house. I made a public correction. Right now, the truce plan is she'll go to her parents' Christmas Eve and Christmas morning, come back here midday so we can see my dad for a few hours, then probably go back to her parents that night. I'll be doing Christmas Eve at my mom's, part Christmas Day with my dad, and the rest of the time at home alone. Her entire side thinks I'm punishing them over one dinner. My family thinks if I cave now, next year will be Easter, then birthdays, then we told everyone we'd use your yard for the 4th. I don't feel good about any of this, but I feel worse about the idea that the price of peace in my marriage is never being consulted about how my own house is used. Am I really being that unreasonable for drawing a line here? Update 2 weeks later. A lot has happened since my original post, and Christmas hasn't even arrived yet. After I sent that text saying we wouldn't host, Lena and I were basically cold roommates for a few days. We'd talk about logistics, who's feeding the cat when, but avoid the actual issue. She was spending a lot more time on the phone in the other room. I assumed with Mara and her mom. One night I walked past the guest room and heard her say, I'll fix it, just give me time. A few days later, I got my answer. I came home from work and noticed a new doormat inside the front door. It said, welcome to her maiden name Christmas house. I definitely didn't buy that. The house also smelled like her mom's perfume. I checked the kitchen and saw our extra folding chairs stacked by the wall, a new plastic table leaning against the counter, and a big plastic tub of Christmas plates and serving dishes I did not recognize. Lena was in the living room, scrolling her phone. I asked, did your parents come over? She hesitated and said, yeah, they swung by earlier. Mom dropped off some stuff to make things easier. I asked, did you give them a key? She said, they needed to get in while you were at work. I was here. It's not a big deal. I pointed at the doormat and said, what is this? She said her mom thought it was a cute joke. I told her it's not a joke when I'm the one who said we weren't hosting, and now the front door is literally announcing the opposite. I checked the sideboard. Carol had put a stack of her own Christmas linens inside. Our fridge had a ham and 2 casseroles with sticky notes that said, for Christmas Eve. It was very clear to me that despite my message, they were gearing up like Christmas was still happening here. I told Lena, call your parents and tell them to come get this stuff. We're not doing this. She said, they just wanted to help. This doesn't mean anything. They still don't know what we're doing for sure. I said, they know exactly what they're doing. They're setting up, so it feels impossible for me to say no. We fought again. She kept saying, I told them you were stressed, that you'd come around. I realized then that while I'd been thinking of this as a boundary we'd set, she'd been treating it as a phase I'd get over. The next day, I took an early lunch break and went home. While Lena was at work, I moved all of Carol's stuff, the folding table, chairs, tubs of dishes, the doormat, into the garage. Then I changed the lock cylinder on the front door. It cost me an hour and $40, worth it. That night, Lena tried to unlock the front door, and her key worked, but the spare on her parents' ring wouldn't anymore. She immediately clocked it and asked, did you change the locks? I said, I changed our lock, yes, because I don't want people treating this place like a community center without my consent. She blew up, said I was treating her parents like criminals, that I was paranoid. I said, I told everyone Christmas wasn't happening here. They responded by quietly loading our house up with supplies, and you let them. You didn't forget to tell them. You promised you'd fix it. She said, so what? Now my parents aren't allowed in our house. I said, they're allowed when we invite them, like adults, not when your mom decides what doormat we have and what events we host. The next day, Carol called me directly for the first time since the group text. She skipped hello and went straight to, "How dare you change the locks on your wife's parents?" I said, "I changed the locks on my house because you turned your hurt feelings into a covert plan to override a boundary." She said I was controlling and isolating Lena from her family. I said, "No, I'm insisting that if 10 people are going to descend on my home for Christmas, both people who pay the mortgage have to agree." I said no, and you showed up here anyway. She didn't deny it, just said, "Well, Lena told us you were distressed and would come around." That was the moment it clicked. My wife had been telling a different story to them than the one we'd been living in this house. That night, Lena and I had the worst fight we've ever had. I asked her straight out, "Have you told your parents you're okay with ignoring what I said as long as they handle the details?" She didn't answer at first, then admitted she'd told them I was overreacting and that she'd work on me. I told her, "I'm not a project you and your mom get to manage. I'm your husband. If you disagree with me, you argue with me, not recruit reinforcements and try to wear me down through sheer logistics." She said, "You put me in an impossible position. I can't tell my mom no when she's this excited." I said, "You already did tell her no once. You told her no when we agreed months ago we weren't ready to host this year. Then you changed your mind without me." By the end of that argument, she said something that stuck with me. She said, "In my family, my parents decide how holidays go. That's just how it is." I said, "You're not a kid in their house anymore. You're an adult in ours. If that can't change, then we have a much bigger problem than Christmas." We spent the next few days basically avoiding each other. Meanwhile, Lena's family group chat kept pinging with people assuming logistics. "What time should we come over?" And, "Are we doing stockings at yours or mom's?" Lena didn't correct them. She just left it there, which meant unless I did something big, they were going to show up here on Christmas Eve acting like everything was fine. So I made an appointment with a marriage counselor, told Lena I wanted us to go after the holidays. Not to fix Christmas, but to fix the fact that we clearly don't agree on whose voice matters in this marriage. She said she'd think about it. In the meantime, I stuck to my original position. We're not hosting Christmas, and I'm not pretending we're to make anyone feel better. Final update, 3 weeks later, after Christmas. Christmas happened, just not the way anyone on her side thought it would. In the week leading up, no one in her family adjusted their plans. Carol kept texting Lena about, "What time are you starting appetizers? And should we bring folding chairs or use yours?" Every time I asked, "Have you told them we're not hosting?" Lena would say, "I don't want to talk about this right now." 2 days before Christmas Eve, I sent one more message to the group chat, short and clear. Reminder, we are not hosting any Christmas events at our house this year. Please do not show up here on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, assuming otherwise. Lena and I will see you at Carol and Dan's if and when we choose to. No one replied. Not a single message. It was the quietest that chat had been since it started. Christmas Eve afternoon, I was at my mom's having lunch. Lena had left that morning to help her mom. The plan we'd agreed on, after a lot of tense non-conversations, was that she'd spend Christmas Eve and Christmas morning at her parents', then come back here by noon so we could go to my dad's together. Around 5 p.m., my doorbell rings. I'm not home, but my phone shows a notification from the video doorbell. I check the camera and see Carol and Dan on the front porch. Dan is holding 2 casserole dishes. Carol has a bag of gifts. Behind them in the driveway, I can see Mara's SUV and one brother's car. They're all there, staring at the door. They knock again. Then I watch Carol pull out a key and try the lock. It doesn't work. She tries again, looks confused, turns to Dan and says something. He shrugs. Mara walks up, knocks harder, then says, "Maybe he's hiding inside," laughs in that mean way that isn't really a joke. They stand there for a good 5 minutes, then finally start checking their phones. I'm getting text from Mara. "Wow, really? Are you serious right now?" One brother texts, "Door's locked, dude." Dan calls me. I let it go to voicemail. He leaves a message about how petty I'm being. A few minutes later, I see Lena on the camera. She'd driven straight to her parents that morning. So this is her first time seeing them at our door. She looks between them and the lock and says quietly, "He told you he wasn't hosting." Carol snaps, "He didn't mean it. He's just being dramatic." Lena says, "He changed the locks, Mom." And for the first time since this started, I see it land on her face that I wasn't bluffing. They all troop back to their cars. I watch Mara mouth unbelievable to the camera. They drive away. A few hours later, I get a single text from Lena. "We're at my parents'. I'm staying here tonight. We'll talk tomorrow." Christmas morning, I go to my mom's again for coffee and presents with my niece and nephew. Then to my dad's in the afternoon. It's calm. It's not how I pictured my first Christmas in this house. But it's also not 10 angry people in my kitchen pretending everything is normal. Lena comes home around 4 p.m., looking wrecked. We sit at the table and finally have a real conversation instead of the half arguments we've been having for a month. She tells me that after they left our porch, her parents went back to their place and spent the entire evening complaining about me. Carol calling me controlling, Dan saying I was testing them, Mara talking about how she'd never let a man tell her what to do in her own family. But then something else happened. Apparently, when Carol tried to tell the story to extended family the next day, cousins, aunts, people who don't live in our immediate orbit, she didn't get the reaction she expected. A couple of them asked, "Wait, did you actually ask him before you told everyone you'd be at his house?" One aunt apparently said, "Why would you plan a whole event in their home without both of them agreeing?" I'd be furious too. Lena said it was the first time she'd ever seen her parents have to defend themselves on something like that. They're used to being the center of their little solar system, used to everyone orbiting around their plans. When that didn't happen and they realized I wasn't backing down, some of the self-righteousness apparently cracked. Lena also admitted something she hadn't before. She told me that after my last group text, her mom had said, "Ignore him. We'll just show up. Once everyone is there, he won't throw us out." And Lena had gone along with it. She'd told herself that if she just got them in the door, I'd given rather than ruin Christmas. I told her that was the part that hurt the most, not just that her parents didn't respect my no, but that she was willing to bet our marriage dynamic on my fear of looking like the bad guy. We talked for a long time, no yelling, just honest, uncomfortable truth. I told her point blank. This wasn't about ham and side dishes. This was about whether my no means anything if it conflicts with what your mom wants. She didn't argue. For the first time since this mess started, she said, "You're right, not you're right, but," or "I get it, but just you're right. I didn't treat you like a partner. I treated you like an obstacle I needed to get around." She told me she'd already called the marriage counselor's office herself that morning and confirmed our appointment for January. Said she wanted to go, not to convince me to give in, but because she realized she didn't know how to be an adult daughter and a wife at the same time, without defaulting to whatever her parents wanted. We also set some concrete boundaries for the future. No one gets a key to our house except us. No one announces events at our house unless both of us have agreed in advance. Holidays get decided by us first, then announced to families, not the other way around. If one of us says, "I am not okay hosting X this year," that is the end of the discussion with extended family, even if it means disappointing parents. She texted her parents later that evening, told them that what they did was not okay, that any future plans in our home would have to go through both of us. Carol apparently cried again, said she didn't recognize her daughter anymore. Lena replied, "You raised me to have a backbone. This is what that looks like." As for me, I changed the lock back to a normal cylinder we both have keys for. But the spare keys that used to live on her parents' ring are gone. I also pulled that Christmas house doormat out of the garage, cut it into pieces, and put it in the trash. Lena watched me do it and didn't say a word. We're not separating. We're not filing for divorce. But we're not pretending this was just holiday stress. Either we're going to counseling in January, and a lot of those sessions are going to be about exactly what happened here. Next Christmas has already been decided by us, not by our parents. We wrote it down. Christmas Eve, my mom, small dinner, just immediate family. Christmas Day, just us in our house. No travel, no guests. Maybe see your parents on the 26th if we both feel up to it. No group texts until after that schedule is locked in between the two of us. I'm not pretending I'm some hero of boundaries. I hated every minute of this. Sitting in my dad's living room knowing my in-laws were probably telling anyone who would listen that I ruined Christmas. Wasn't fun. Sitting across from my wife knowing she had, at least initially, chosen their control over our agreement hurt a lot. But letting them roll over us in our first year in this house would have set a tone I don't think we could have undone later. This way, the message is clear. This is our home, our marriage, our holidays. Decisions here start with two people, not 3 or 5, or a group chat. That's the line, and it's staying.